Welcome on today's conversation on the future of work, where AI isn't just a buzzword, but a business driver. This is Lenovo Work Reborn, live in Orlando. Hello, Mark. Welcome to the Lenovo Work Reborn podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, Rita. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. This is our last day here at this Expo. Tell me how you've been this week. Is there anything interesting that you've learned throughout the week, the show?
Yeah, I think it's interesting in that this is probably the third year here, and the first year it's when ChatGPT had really popped, right? And so the whole conference was on AI. Last year it was on AI again, but it was more on the technology side of AI. Now you're starting to see people waking up and say, hey, wait, there's a human side to this too.
Yes.
And so that's starting to filter into a lot of the presentations of less about the technology, more about how do humans really adapt and use AI to its fullest. So I found that pretty interesting.
That's exactly why we wanted to bring you here today. You're doing a lot of important work to understand that side of it and actually the many facets of AI within your own organization. Would you mind just giving us a brief introduction as to who you are and what you do?
Sure. My name is Mark Lehew. I work with SAP. I'm Vice President of Industry Advisory here in North America for our manufacturing industries. And my role is really, I have a team of people that were typically ex-CIOs. They came out of industry, so they walked in the shoes of our customers. And my group really goes out and helps our customers understand how to apply SAP for the industry-specific sort of business problems that they're trying to solve.
You know, there are a lot of concerns in the market right now. We interviewed over 600 senior IT leaders, CISOs, CTOs, all of the like. And everyone is really talking about what you just said, which is how are we actually going to implement AI and balance it, make it human? We call it Work Reborn, right? It's not about completely changing, but reimagining the way we bring life into the modern workplace. And from these conversations that we've had, there have been many areas of concern like AI, sustainability, cybersecurity, and employee experience. But today I really wanted to dive into the AI side of things as well with you. So, we talk about a lot of the positives as it relates to the productivity that AI can create. There's also some unknowns as to what will happen to our teams, what roles will there be? And as the workforce becomes more AI enabled, what skills or functions do you think will phase out? Which new ones do you think will be critical? What are your thoughts overall?
I think the things that will phase out would tend to be, I'll call it the repetitive, or I hate to use the word mundane, but that's what's popping into my mind. Something that's very repetitive and that can be automated. Those sort of things, if you look at what's happening with, say, contracts, or there's certain things in finance where it's easy to logically repeat it over and over in volume and scale. I think anything related to that's going to phase out. Ironically, I think things that require creativity could really be used with or take advantage of AI.
Right.
If you think of the whole Hollywood strike a year ago or a couple months ago, it was all about that, right? And so there's certain roles. I know us in our jobs, we're still trying to figure out, how do we really use this? There's certain things like responding to RFPs where you can automate a lot because it's sort of the same questions you're being asked by customers. It's easy to automate that, right?
And I find that exciting, because that's something that, requires just a little bit of thought, but not too much where you're taking away from the creativity, but could increase the, the gains for the business if done faster.
Yeah, you can get through a lot faster. You're not staying up at nights having to do this, where it used to take hours to do. Now it takes 30 minutes to do. And again, it's the same sort of questions that everyone's asking you.
Over and over.
Okay, you've got to have the intelligence to look at it and say, how do I tune it specific for this customer? But 80% of it is the same, right? And so that's easy to sort of do. But we're still, things like, how do you do research on a particular company? There's so much out there now to really get to the bottom of what are they really struggling with? How can we really help them? AI really helps us in doing research much quicker than Google search after Google search after Google search.
Or
So
even thinking about the times when I was in college going to the library and like picking one book up at a time. This is a positive natural evolution of that and the next iteration of it, I think.
exactly. So I think that, I mean, if I look at what SAP is doing, you hear in the market so much about job elimination from AI, and there will be certain jobs eliminated, but at the same token, there's going to be people hired that are in new roles that were never there before, right? So
What
it
kind of
nets out to
roles?
us. Well, I think there's a lot of roles around data,
Yeah.
right? Building models, agentic AI, anything around development. The whole data thing's fascinating because there's just so much work to do there. I mean, that's sort of the fuel that AI is running over. There will be a lot there. And I even think that I have this in my head a little bit in that there was a lot of talk the last couple of years about prompt engineering, right? And you see it yourself. If you play around with AI, it's amazing. Just subtle differences of what you're putting into the system,
Change.
the sort of response it gets, right? So I think that I don't know if it will be called prompt engineering in a couple of years, right? But
Right.
the skill set to really be able to put the right sort of prompts into AI or know how to sort of sequence a series of questions to get it to do what you
Hmm.
want or to get agents to do what you want, that's probably going to be a new role. I think 5 years from now, it's going to be totally different, right? It's
I even think even
accelerating at
from a
such a
year from
pace.
now, even
Exactly.
like
Yeah.
because of that pace that you're talking about,
Yeah, you're
right?
right. It's probably way less than 5 years.
Yeah.
It's 1 year, right?
Right.
Yeah, we're in dog year life now with how
Yeah.
fast this is accelerating.
Exactly. I do want to understand though, maybe on the flip side, roles that may not be AI centric that could be emerging as a result of it. We were talking a little bit about how maybe personal skills or soft skills may be even more valuable as we get used to using AI and, prompting it to help us with productivity. I don't think the interpersonal or the relationship skills go away.
No, it's interesting. I have kids, right? And I look at I'm going to really age myself. So this whole work reborn thing. I think
Right.
of when I first started. If someone wanted to call you, they'd call you in the office. You'd have a secretary that would take a note. You had the note, you had to call them back. And then came fax machines. Oh, that blew our
Right.
mind. And then came email, right? And then the internet. And you look at where this is going, and everything now that we do is sort of based off of the habits we've gotten to with our phones, right? And I look at my kids, they've grown up like that, right? They are used to that. And so there's a pro to it. It's incredibly efficient. You're always connected. But I do think that I question whether people are as social as they used to be.
Right.
Just go to an airport and sit around and watch how many people are really talking to each other versus just buried on their phone, right?
Mm-hmm.
With AI, how is that going to change human behavior, right?
Mm-hmm.
Does a young person now, when AI becomes very mainstream, start to rely on AI for all their research, all their thinking, and they start to lose their own
Mm.
ability to do their own sort of creativity and thinking? And I don't think that's ever going to go away. That need's always going to be there because no matter what AI generates, you're still going to need the intelligence to sit there and say, does this really make sense?
Right.
Is this coming back with the answer that I wanted to come back with? Did this really solve my problem? So that's a little bit of a concern that people are going to swing the pendulum and
Mm-hmm.
become so overly reliant on it to do their own thinking that some inherent human creativity gets lost in the process.
Well, I think that's why the leaders that are going to be most successful that keep that concern in mind will be the ones that succeed because education around it will be imperative. Like
Yep.
being able to say, this is a tool, this is how we use this, but if done right, it opens up to do this, and then putting those systems and processes in place. I mean, I think it goes back to the culture of the workplace too. I heard another guest come on talk about AI washing, where it's like everything looks they slap AI on it, and it's just a thing that's there, right? So, like, what is the use case for it? Just like anything that you introduce into your business environment. And that's why at Lenovo, what we're doing, I think, is so great because we're partners that are in the long term to try to work with you to see, what can we really amplify, what areas are of need, and how can we work together to make sure that the core of your values and goals for your organization are being respected and, helped in the long run, So I do think education is important in that regard. Is there any kind of education you guys are doing within your current organization now to help? Because like you said, maybe a year from now it's different, but I feel like every couple of weeks there's something new.
It's moving so rapidly within SAP right now, and there's tons of education internally, not only on what is being embedded in our products so that we can educate our customers on, here's new enhancements and features that would benefit you, but even us in doing our daily work. There's tons of stuff. I mean, for consultants, for the longest time when people would go out and implement a system, right? It used to be old manuals or it was online help to figure out how to technically do
Right.
something. Now it's all just ask a question and there's the answer, right? It really facilitates and speeds up doing some of the complex work with a lot of, years and years of experience of implementations
Hmm.
behind it. I want to get back to one thing that you had said earlier that you made me think of
Yeah.
as far as, how AI applies and what it's doing to the workforce. In that, if you think of when manufacturers first put in robots, why did they put in robots on the assembly line? It was against this repetitive task that let's let them do the repetitive and let's free up the humans for creativity, right? And to do things that were sort of variable and changing. And I don't think that changes with AI. AI is for the very sort of repetitive, and let's free up the human capacity in the organization for the things that need to be social. I mean, the culture thing is huge, right?
Hmm.
What is AI going to do for a culture? You need people for an organizational culture.
Right.
Will AI ever run a sports team? Probably not, right? You need
Right.
that sort of camaraderie, that teamwork, that culture. That I don't see that changing in business. I just see AI being used as a tool to really help people scale, become more efficient, and allow companies to grow without having to necessarily add the corresponding headcount of people to do those
Right.
mundane tasks, right?
Right. I want to dive into that actually further, tactically speaking, right? There are people that within an organization are very knowledgeable on a specific topic. And I really feel that, it's amazing to be able to help them perform even at a higher level if we give them the right tools as a result. And our Work Reborn research suggested that AI enabled hyper personalization, is what we were calling and seeing, could boost productivity up to actually 20%. And knowledge intensive roles, not just any role, but roles that require a lot of that thought, like
Yeah.
consultancy
Yeah.
or whatever it is. So, if you were to apply that kind of gain, where would you apply it first? And what type of capacity or role could you see it helping?
Yeah, I think the easiest one is the consultants, right?
Yeah.
And again, there's a generational turnover going on in companies like SAP. I mean, when we started in North America in the 90s, a lot of those consultants that have been built up 30 years of experience of how to deploy SAP and how to configure it and how to support certain business processes, they're starting to retire, right? You've got
Right.
a younger workforce coming in. AI is perfect to really, if we capture the knowledge of those people and can use AI to feed it up to the younger people, like I said, where they just have to ask a question
Yeah.
and it's telling them here's how to do it, right? In a very simple sort of bite-sized chunks. That's a right place
Mhm.
to really help. So on the consulting side, I even think with us, like my team, again, it's similar to consultants, right? 30 years in the industry, there's a lot of knowledge in people's heads.
Right.
Again, when they go, that if you capture that knowledge base, the new generation coming in gets up to speed quicker and is more productive quicker and of more use and benefit to a customer when they're able to tap into that knowledge base than traditionally, someone left a couple files behind and you're left there to sort of interpret
Figure it
what
out
does
for
it
yourself.
exactly, what does
Yeah.
this really mean, right? So I think it gets new employees up to speed quicker that can help the customers quicker.
I never thought about how it could capture legacy or IP in a way that could be positive for the next generation. That's so cool. I really appreciate that. When we think about Work Reborn, from your own personal take, what do you think that means to you?
I go back to the what I was talking about earlier.
Yeah.
My career. It's amazing to see the shift in technology. So Work Reborn, I look at just like the internet turned things upside down for how you used it is a enabler at work, and the cell phone AI is going to do the same thing, right? We're right at the very beginning. It reminds me of like 92, 93 when internet first came out. We're like, wow, this is really cool.
Right.
We're not sure all the stuff we can do with it, right? And there's a lot of companies out there sort of throwing stuff at the
Yes.
wall, trying
Yes.
things, right? And that's where we are with AI. But very quickly, like you said, it's going to mature and it's going to be an incredible tool that's very useful to empower people at work. Reborn's a perfect word for it, right? What it will look like, I don't know, but I think it will allow people to be much more scalable, much more efficient, help new people onboard to a job much quicker, and allow for customers to get a lot more self-service on their own. Like the easiest example I have is I think everyone can relate to doing Google searches, right? When you're looking up something. Now just simply go to ChatGPT and it's like a Google search on steroids, right? It's
Right.
coming back with a recommendation and then it's also saying, would you like me to do this next, right? And so it's just taking it to the next level. It's amazing if you look at when you play with it, what you get out at the end, depending upon what you're trying to answer, versus if you said, how long would it have taken me to do that with a series of Google searches?
Right.
It's a lot of time, right? So again, freeing up people's time to really apply it in a different way than sort of the mundane.
Well, Mark, this has been a pleasure. Thank you so much for being on the podcast and sharing your insights. I feel that our listeners will gain a lot of value or maybe just a inspiration or boost from this conversation. The truth of the matter is we are all figuring it out together, right?
Exactly.
Right. And if you're interested in learning more about our Work Reborn study, make sure you download a copy of the report. It will be in a link in the description below. Or if you're watching us on YouTube, there will be a QR code on the screen over here. You can scan that code and grab a copy for yourself. This has been Work Reborn, and that's a wrap. Thank you.
Thanks, Rita.
Thanks for joining us live in Orlando for this amazing episode of Work Reborn. I've been your host, Rita Risha, and it's been a pleasure to bring you insightful conversations from around the world, especially at this event, on how we are bringing new life to the modern workplace. If you enjoyed this episode and you want to stay tuned on more ways that we are doing just that, make sure to like, follow, and subscribe our channel, and download a copy of the Work Reborn report today.
Lenovo.